Welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. I'm Margaret Lewin, and today we're going to be making pillowcases with names on it. This is the one I made for my grandson Austin, and I'm also going to make one for my granddaughter. So if you'd like to see how I'm doing it, stay tuned and I'll show you exactly how. The very first thing I did when designing and making this pillowcase was I had to find letters. Well, I looked out all over the internet and I ended up deciding that that was crazy. I was just going to use my computer. So I went over to my computer and I played around with different size fonts and different types of fonts. I knew I wanted mine really blocky and I knew I wanted it simple. So I ended up with the Arial Black Bold is where I ended up for the font. And then I started playing with the font sizes. I ended up at size 300, and 300 seemed to be perfect for what I wanted to do it for. Now, somebody suggested when you print these out, do it as an outline to save on ink, because if you print it like I did at the regular setup, you can only get one letter per page. If you did it landscape, which would be like this, you would be able to get 2 letters per page, but I was only able to get 1. So if you know how to do the outline letter, I would also suggest that you do that. I didn't know how to do it at that point. I didn't know how to do it, so I just printed them out plain black. So then I knew I needed to get my fabrics cut. So I cut my sleeve at 10 inches by 41. I cut the pillowcase itself at 27 inches by 41. And then my letter, the strip of fabric that I needed for that, I cut it at 3.5 by however many letters. Austin has far more letters in his name than Lion does. So consequently, I needed more fabric for Lion than I did Austin. So that's how I did that. The next thing that I did was I went and I got my Steamacine 2 out. And my Steamacine 2, what it is it's got paper on both sides of it so that you can draw on it. You can take one side of the paper off, fuse it down to your fabric, and then take the other side, fuse it down again to whatever it is you're using. So these are my letters. Some of Lion's letters, if I don't transpose them or reverse them like this, they're not going to come out right. Because what I'm going to be doing is, move my extra fabric out of the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wrong side of my fabric. Here's the wrong side of my fabric. Here's the right side. And I'm going to put the letters down on the wrong side. So if I was to put them face up like this and turn it over, my L is going to be backwards. So I drew on the first side, then I turn around and I drew it again on the second side so that I would have an image. You could also, on your template, your alphabet template, what you could do is just turn it over and you can still see the L. So you could do it on a light box, you could do it on a window, you could probably just do it straight out and you wouldn't have a problem seeing that. So I wanted to tell you that. So now that I've done that, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these letters down to my fabric. And then I'll go over to the ironing board and I'm just going to press them. Now what I will do is I will set the iron down on it for just count of 5 maybe at that. Pick it up, set it down again, count again. And that will set it. Now, this is a trick my mother taught me. So to get the paper off of the Steamacine 2, this is how I'm going to go about doing it. I want it to be right side down. So the side I initially wrote on, I want that down. I want wrong side up. So I'm going to score it with just a straight pin. That's all it is just a straight pin. And then I will be able to peel it right off. So here I go. And I'm going to start with the L I am going to probably do it in order. And I know I'm wasting quite a bit of fabric here, and I probably shouldn't, but I am. So now my Y. Now the Y could go either way. So I am going to, actually I scored it on the wrong side. I'm going to stay consistent and do all of them on the right side so that I don't get confused, because sometimes I think that's the best way to do it. Just keep it simple. So here's my Y. And this stuff is nice because it's just tacky enough that it stays down to the fabric. Now my O. And I'm going to score it on the right side. Whoops, I think I did that off camera and I'm sorry. I'm going to score it first. And then see, I can pretty easily just peel it right off. All right. So L-Y-O-N. And that is a different name. It actually is a family name. It's my middle name. So that's where she got it from. Here we go. Come on, get off of there. It's always harder to do things on camera than it is to do them off camera. So L-Y-O-N. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the ironing board and I'm just going to fuse these down. While I'm over at the pressing or ironing table, I'm also going to take my piece of fabric that is my sleeve. That's my, I think this is it. Yep, this is my 10-inch sleeve on the top. I'm going to take this and I'm going to just fold it in half and press it because I need to have some reference guides for the next step. I'll be right back as soon as I do that. So I'm going to double check all of my measurements and make sure that I'm right on target. My piece of fabric here is 22.5 inches, but I've got my selvage in here, so I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to go down to 21.5. When I get at 21.5, I actually need to take into account the fact that I've got a 1/4 inch seam. So now I'm going to take it down to 21.5. So 21.5 divided by 2 is 10 3/4. So my 10 3/4 mark right here is my center. Now I could take another ruler. Right here, I've got a second one. It's always nice to have 2 rulers. So here's my 10 3/4 mark. So I need to bring that thing down just a little bit, right? And I can see here that I am 1 inch out, which is where I really do want to be. So now I'm going to bring my Y and my L down a little bit too so that I'm centered. How's that? I think that looks pretty good. Double check that I'm 1 inch in. And I am a little bit over on the L and the Y. Spread that out a little bit. All right, now I'm going to just carefully pin these down a little bit without moving them, or at least try to. And then I'm going to take it right over to my pressing table and I'm going to release the paper on the back again like I did earlier. I need to make an adjustment here. So I'll release the paper and then I'm going to press them down, and then how I'm going to permanently adhere them to the fabric is I'm just going to top stitch all around the letters. I'm going to keep this one really simple. And I'm not adding that little piece of fringe on this one either. Like I said, I'm going to keep this one really simple. So I'll go press those down and then I'll be back. I brought you over to my pressing table because this part I really want you to see. I've got Lion's name on there and I've just done a straight top stitch. Now below I'll link a video that I did for a flag that was just straight stitch top stitching so that you could see how I permanently adhered it down. Now you can see the right side of the fabric is up. We've got selvage here and selvage here. So next I'm going to take my pillowcase and I'm going to open it up and I'm going to lay it right on top of their right sides together. I'm going to match everything up, match my sides up, and I am going to stick a couple pins in it just to keep it secure and in place for me while I do the next step. And the next step is going to be just, excuse me for reaching in front of the camera, just rolling it up inside of this band that's right here. So I'm just going to get a couple pins in it just to keep it together. One more and then I'll be good. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to take up all of my pillowcase and I'm just going to roll it up pretty small because I don't want to be stitching it when I stitch this together. I'm just going to roll it and roll it. So I've rolled it up. Now I'm going to take the bottom piece, just flip it over. I'm going to match my seams and then I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch down all the way. Then I'll be back. I have my pillowcase turned right side out. Okay. I've pulled it out of the sleeve this sleeve part that it ends up folded into. And you can see I've still got my selvage on here. So the next thing I'm going to do is just square it up nice. And then I'm going to take it over to the cutting table and cut my selvage off. Once I've done that, I'm going to put wrong sides together. Let me show you. I'm going to put these 2 wrong sides together. And I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch. All right, but first, let me go get rid of the excess fabric that needs to come off. Then I'll sew the 1/4 of an inch and show you what happens next. I've sewn my 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and now I'm going to show you how I'm going to trim these corners because I don't want any bulk in my corners so that when I go to turn it right side out after my next sew, I want it to turn nicely. So what I'm going to do is start, I think I'm about 2 inches from the corner, and I'm just going to angle up and trim right to that corner, right to that edge. I'm going to go down and I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom corner. I'm going to start a little farther out and just trim away the bulk up to the corner. I'm going to do the same thing here. Then when I get up here, I'm going to this time leave this one alone. I'm not going to trim this corner. I'm going to leave it be, and I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to turn it wrong side out, press it again, and then I will be able to sew my very last seam, and this will also make it a French seam. So my next sew, once I get it pressed, is going to be to sew my right sides together. And when I do that, I'm going to, well, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Hang on just a second. Let me grab a pin. I'm going to take this seam right here. I'm going to put it together, all right, just like this. Then I'm going to take my pin and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to grab a hold of that seam and I'm just going to push it down in so that when I go to sew this, you're not even going to see that seam. The next part that I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down in here and I'm going to push this seam out a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that this inside here is matched up really well because that will be noticed on the outside of the pillowcase if this seam doesn't match. So then I will also pin right there. And then I'm going to take it and just sew. It's a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. I would say probably 3/8 of an inch all the way around the pillowcase. I am going to press it first so that it's easier to sew. Here is my lion pillowcase all done. You can see her name goes like this. And On here, I have managed to get my seam tucked right down in there, so it's not showing. And I did pretty good on my match here, so it's not too bad. I'm happy with it. I hope she's happy with it. So there's Austin's Lion's pillowcase. And here's a reminder of Austin's. Very simple to make and great gifts for kids. I can see these as being fantastic gifts for kids' birthday parties. They'd be wonderful. They get their own pillowcase with their name on it. So thank you so much for joining me today. Down below will be the fabric measurements and a link to the original pattern that I used. The original pattern is called Roll It Up. So you can go down there and pop out to my website to get the original pattern. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye.